Glory to God.
That's what Daddy used to say.
I've been broken and I've been scarred, but I got a testimony, yeah, how I make it this far, Lord. Just like Job, I waited for you. That's why my faith, my trust is in you, Lord. Always love you, Jesus. You're the friend that I have, Lord. Never left me alone, never left me alone. Always, ooh, I trust you, Lord. Ooh, yes I do, yes I do.
You see, I've learned how to lean on God's everlasting arms. He promised He would keep me from all hurt and harm. When I needed Him the most, He gave me power from the Holy Ghost. That's why I lift my hands up high. I praise Him with my life. Always love you. Always trust you, Lord. I'll always I'll trust you, God, with all my heart. I'll trust in the Lord with all my soul, with all my strength. Oh, every step I'm gonna follow you, God.
Faith by faith, you've been there for me, yeah.
Joy in the midst of it all.
In the midst of it all, Lord, you've been there with me, yeah.
Step by step, oh, step by step.
Faith by faith, yeah, yeah, oh.
Joy, joy.
Ooh, yeah, 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 yeah. You're my peace and my joy, Lord, Lord, Lord.
Faith by faith, faith by faith, faith by faith, yeah.
You're listening to Launch with Kim
and Dr. New
on Praise.fm.
Welcome to Launch, everyone.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Launch with Kim and
Dr. New.
he didn't sing it today, but I had to try just in case.
We hope you had a wonderful weekend.
Yes.
Got some rest and everything is doing well in your life right now.
What? I'm sorry.
No, I wasn't saying.
I was gonna say what I noticed is like when we're home, we kind of get like there's so much to do. You find so much to do. You kind of are exhausted by the time it's time to do whatever you need to do for yourself.
Right.
So I know you guys on the East Coast feel that. I'm sure you feel it.
So I see a few people coming in. I have Miss Wanda Dorm.
Hi, Miss Storm.
But yeah, one of my mentors got me started in the whole education realm, to another level in the education realm. Thank you for coming in. Those of you, I don't know who Kim has on her phone.
I can't tell because I can't. Some reason I can't share.
Well, thank you for joining in anyway.
Okay, there's my watch party. I figured it out. There we go. All right.
All right. So you guys, we hope all's going well. Like we said, not like we said, but like I was thinking. Now I'm going to say it. We kind of took a break we were doing a series talking about marriage, and we took a break talking about marriage because of some of the recent events socially that were taking place.
Yeah.
We felt that we wanted to talk a little bit about the history, of Black folks in America, and we wanted to talk about, some things kingdom response to racism. We wanted to talk, we did a few weeks just of just kind of veering away from that topic, but we think we want to get back on track today.
Yes.
We think we want to get back to talking about marriage because when this whole pandemic, the pandemonium cycle begins to level out, we need to be on track.
Yeah.
Which is one of the sessions we did when we talked about enemy before the doorway.
Yeah.
So when that doorway opens, opportunity comes, and we need to have our family strong. We need to have our relationships intact. We need to have our children pointing forward, looking for vision, ready to take advantage of the opportunities and the things that are about to open up for us.
Yeah.
So we're going to go back and talk about that age-old institution, that most important relationship in your life other than the one that you have with God himself, and that's your marriage.
Yes,
your marriage. Yeah.
So tonight we're going to talk about what we call the compromising or compromiser, but we're not actually going to do the compromiser, but we're going to talk about what it means to compromise.
Right.
Kind of explain to you our definition for compromising in a relationship. Right. Everybody's might be a little different, but this is just via Kim and Newt. And remember, we're just sharing our wisdom, giving you something that we've worked on and things that have worked for us in our 21 almost years of marriage.
So
Does it seem like it's that long?
We're still babies in the marriage thing, just 20 years in. And I say that because of our age. But I say that also because I know a lot of people. I know Pastor Kendall, 40 years or so.
Pastor Gwen and Pastor Charles, they've been married for a minute too.
Right, Maggie and Smooth. What's her husband's name? He's Smooth, the smoothest dude around.
Wait, I'm trying to
Oh man, why can't I remember his name right now? I'm looking right at his face.
You mean Maddie?
Maddie.
Yes. Your husband is so smooth.
Yeah. 40 years.
They got
You're a little bit older than us, but we're babies as far as the years are concerned. But we both been married twice, so we know what failure feels like, looks like, and smells like, tastes like.
Because we had that experience.
And to keep it real and keep it honest, I almost killed this marriage. Just I didn't know how to be married. I didn't know how to be a person. My own person. I was having my own battles I was dealing with. So we wrote a book called Baggage Claim. Right. So our marriage ministry, it's marriage simple as pie. Marriage simple as pie.
Not because it's easy.
Right. Not because.
But there's some very simple principles. If you follow them, then you'll be good. Right. But we don't always follow the simple principles. We usually take the hard way around because we kind of like hard-headed people. You know. You said that like like my dad. You're trying to say it like my dad. But sometimes we take the hard way. We take the hard way around, or we take the most difficult way instead of just walking this thing out and understanding that you have got to you got to be willing to just sacrifice. Sacrifice what it is that you want for the greater good of the relationship. So Anyway, even with our little new selves, oh, look, Victoria wrote Maddie and Al. She was trying to help you. She was trying to help you. Thanks, Tori.
Uncle Al, that dude is smooth.
And then there's Cheryl. She's been married for a long time too.
That's right.
So I mean, it's a lot of people who have been married for a long time, and we've got a lot of people to look up to, or different marriages that you can look at. I know some people who've only been married for 13, 14 years, and I'm telling you, they are such, like the Hendersons, they are like a great example of a relationship. And so when you get a chance to see that, you can't judge on years, you just judge on experiences and relationships. And so Newt and I pretty much, over these 21 years, it's been rocky. We've had some terrain, but you know, I feel like through that, that's the reason that God has given us this ministry, because it's been what it was. So we're going to talk a little bit more, you know, I just want you to think about this. It doesn't matter how much you love somebody. You know, it's impossible to be in a marriage without having difficulties. You're going to have some. So if you're complete, you know, because we're different, right?
Different human beings, right?
You know?
We come from different places,
Exactly.
different experiences, different things that shaped us and molded us.
That's Scooby.
So when we come together, we're two different individuals.
Yeah.
And that means we're going to see things differently.
Absolutely.
We're going to process things different. We're going to hear. We could be in the same room and hear something and hear two different things.
And we do that a lot.
You know, so that's just what it is.
Right.
That's what it is. So we have to learn to compromise. So today we want to talk about the 7 keys to compromise in a marriage. The 7 keys to compromise in a marriage.
What we call compromise is when you come to a promise. Like when you come together and you establish a promise that you two are going to keep and carry out through your relationship.
So we kind of learned that when we came together, that what we could do together was much more powerful or greater than what we could do separately. So we had to learn how to do that work together in our relationship.
Absolutely. And don't think that you're not powerful without each other. You are. But there's a limit. You know, it's almost like limited resources. We can only have just enough that you have. But when you put two together, you know.
Let me give you an example. We were helping someone get their car started a few days ago. And we couldn't jump the car because it was pulled into a parking spot. And we couldn't get our car up to jump it. So we had to push the car back. Well, it was a van. It was a pretty big van. But it was a little tiny incline. Right? And I'm pushing, man. I work out. I'm not weak or anything.
You're pretty strong.
I'm not super strong, but I'm not weak. So I push the car back. You know, we get it back a little, but then I hit this incline and I can't go anymore. And I mean, I'm stretched out. I'm pushing. I mean, I'm, you know, pushing. I was like, put in park. Right? So, you know, I take a few breaths, come back, try again. But what Kim does is she gets out the car and she pushes with me. She's like still in the car, you know where the steering wheel is, and pushes with me. And it was so easy to move that car. Like I was almost embarrassed. Like it was hard. It was hard. So my point I'm trying to give you that as an example.
Little cast to her.
The point I'm trying to give you as an example is that when we work together, we can accomplish so much more, and you don't even know it.
Yeah.
You know, you don't even know it.
Yeah.
What's being accomplished. So in that whole
That was a good example.
in that whole compromise piece, or come to a promise, as we call it, compromise, there's 3 foundational words that you have to understand. They're vulnerability, sacrifice, and submission. So we can't compromise or come to a promise unless we exhibit vulnerability, sacrifice, and submission.
And to submit to each other.
Submission to each other. So that whole idea of vulnerability, it means that we're willing to take risks. So I had to learn, me personally, in our relationship, that just because Kim did things differently than me, didn't mean that her way was better or worse than mine. Right.
And I had to learn the same thing.
Right. So I had to learn how to take the chance to be vulnerable enough to say, let's do it your way. Or vulnerable enough to say, well, I'm at my wit's end. I can't push the car anymore. I'm stretched out. I'm using all my strength, and I'm
Yeah.
just holding it still.
When you can admit
Right.
that right there, to me, you're being vulnerable and you're also humbling yourself, which you're establishing something in your relationship
Right.
where both of you know that that you do have an end.
Right. Exactly.
Because sometimes we, as strong African American women, sometimes we act like we can do it all.
Yes, indeed.
I mean, you have to put that out there. But okay. But the truth is, when you get into a relationship, and I think my sister Wubby, she wrote like a forward for our she wrote a testimonial for our book, our marriage book. And one of the things that she said was that Newt came to the relationship and he was really like romantic and loving, and I was like a little tough, like trying to make sure that he wasn't going to that he wasn't going to be in control of me, because I felt like all my life I have had enough of that. So anytime I feel like I'm being taken, like someone's going to, or I think, because it's really not what's happening, that someone's taking control of me, I get defensive. So that's the thing, understanding that you can be vulnerable enough to say, I do have an end.
Right.
Like this is what I can do. This is it.
Bring down those defenses.
Yeah.
And don't have the need to control the situation.
Yeah. And that was good.
Right.
The next one is can we go on to the next one?
So really, we want them to know that vulnerability is a good thing.
It's a good thing.
It's a good thing.
It's a good
right?
thing.
So
absolutely.
because we realized that, I'm just telling you honestly, I began to crave Kim's suggestions in situations that we had going on.
Mm-hmm.
After I got vulnerable too, because I saw that it was a better outcome.
Yeah, it took me a little longer. I'm still working on that because there's still some things that I feel like I can do, and I always want to help, but I have to let it go.
So
Sacrifice. Now that one, I feel like I did pretty good in the marriage, just giving everything that I had.
Yeah.
Because that's the opposite end of vulnerable. Being vulnerable means you kind of say, all right, I can't. That sacrifice means I can and I will. So I did. And Newt talks about it, how sometimes people think in a marriage it's 50-50. Well, it's not.
50-50 don't add up to 100.
Yeah, not with one person.
Right.
That's just you giving 50.
So I know you saying, what you mean? 50-50 is 100. 50 and 50 is 100. No, it doesn't add up to 100.
Not to your 100.
So you hear a lot of times people say relationships should be 50-50.
Yeah.
Right? That's like a horrible approach to take to a relationship. You're setting yourself up for some disappointment.
Mm-hmm.
You're setting yourself up for some arguments.
Right.
And it's just a real bad situation time. One reason, just naturally, just use Kim and I, for example. There was a time where I was at a job, doing wonderful, everything's great, and I go in that day and they just fired me. I mean, they just fired me. I still don't know why they fired me, right? I had to come home. Do you want to keep going with this?
Yeah, we'll just go ahead,
Okay.
because we need to get these three.
I had to come home and tell Kim that I was fired, right?
Ready?
But Kim was working, and she didn't blink.
And I usually blink a lot because I blink just regular.
She didn't blink, So the reason I'm using that is because I had income into the house. We had purchased a home.
Mm-hmm.
We were early in our marriage. She had income into what we were doing. So she didn't blink. She didn't get on my case about finding another job. Even, of course, I did all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing was, I was no longer 50-50 on that round. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't bringing anything in other than that unemployment that I drew, because they fired. I don't know why they fired me.
He's still, I need you to let it go. Let it go. No,
Right.
just let it go, babe.
So story short, you don't want to say 50-50 because there's going to be changes and events and things that happen in your lives where that numerical 50-50 isn't going to work. And then there's another 50-50 that happens.
Mm-hmm.
So there's times when I can deal with the children or what's going on in the family differently because I'm a man or because I have a different perspective.
Absolutely.
Right? And there's times that Kim can do the same thing because she's a woman that has a different perspective.
Right.
So I can't stop halfway,
Mm-hmm.
and say, all right, you do the rest.
Right.
Because right now I'm anointed to handle this
Exactly.
thing. But right now she's anointed to handle this thing.
Right.
So that whole
That's so
50-50 piece, you got to get that out your head. And what you have to do instead, here's how we said it. If you're both giving 50-50, then you're both just giving half.
That's it.
Right?
And that does not work in a relationship.
You're giving half of what you have.
Mm-hmm.
So really what you have now is two halves.
Right.
And that doesn't add up to a whole.
Not
here.
an equal whole.
Not in relationships. So we got two people giving half.
Right.
That's not everything.
Right.
So you have to give your 100%, whatever it is,
Exactly.
at whatever level you are, with whatever you have, with whatever is going on, and that 100% is going to look different.
And the thing about it in relationships, just like with our relationship with Christ, he wants us to have an abundance. And in your relationship, if you're both giving more than, giving everything, then there should be an abundance of love, an abundance of concern, an abundance of care. There's an abundance of, communication. There's an abundance of everything.
Right.
And and you learn to give that 100 because you think you're giving all, but if you're not being vulnerable, then you're really not giving your 100. If you're not sacrificing, you're really not giving your 100.
So the two words that we talked about so far were
vulnerability,
and
sacrifice.
And this is all part of learning to compromise.
Yes, it is.
So we're trying to set you up so you can compromise or come to a promise. Better in your marriage. And the third component of the definition of coming to a promise is submission.
Or submit. So for those, because I know women hate to hear that shun part on submission. They don't mind that submit.
Maybe not after this.
I know, but I'm just giving it to them at first. Let me just don't click off.
Yeah.
It's a way to submit yourself to a relationship or something in a relationship. But submission, go ahead, babe.
So I think mostly women don't like to hear that because we as men, we've used that word, which means now they've given us permission to be in control of making decisions for them.
And the church, unfortunately, some of us, not every baptized believer, but many of us have viewed it the wrong way because of the scriptures. But we start at one part of the scripture, we don't read the first part, which says husbands submit to your. Yeah, it says it
Husbands,
first.
love your wives.
Love them, which is a
Christ
form.
love church. But so anyway, we didn't write the scripture down here because we were just trying to just talk and flow with you a little bit, right? But I have enough decisions to make in my own life.
Right.
I don't need to take on Kim's decision.
That's pretty good news.
You know what I'm saying? So
I have to say that's good.
I don't want to. So that's kind of how I view that whole piece.
I like how you explain that.
I need you to handle.
There's some decisions, especially like him saying, "Okay, it's time for you to go do this now. It's time for you to." Yeah, that would be too much.
It's not.
And we've never done that.
Right.
He's never done that. I might have been a little bossy.
Got bigger things to do and things that we're working on. Kind of with that whole submission piece, because of a woman's original purpose, right? We've been told to love our wives as Christ loved the church. And I think I said this before. Christ loved the church so much that he got on a tree.
Come on.
Right? As my little niece was saying, he got on two sticks.
Right? He said Jesus got on them
That's
two
my
sticks.
niece says, right?
My niece Michaela.
She's only, what, 5, 6?
Yeah,
Right.
5.
Right. So
She ain't even 5. Yeah.
So anyway, he gave his life. So he gave his life for the church. And remember, when he gave his life, the church didn't exist yet. It hadn't formed.
Yes.
So he gave his life, right,
Yeah.
after training the apostles who were going to start the church.
Yes.
So that meant Jesus knew that the church as an entity had to exist here on earth, and he saw its potential
Yeah.
to change the world. So he gave his life because he submitted to the potential of the church. So when
that's real
when
good.
we're told to love our wives as Christ loved the church, we're submitting to the potential that's in them.
That's good. That's real good.
So that it can manifest and be as great as it's supposed to be. Just like Jesus did for the church.
Yeah.
Right? So that word submission is a two-way street, is I guess what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah. Yes.
And it actually happens in us first.
In the man first.
Then it follows and
Then I have a
reciprocates.
reason to submit.
Right.
Because as he submits himself to God, okay, and then loves his wife like our Father did the church, then I have a reason to want to submit to what it is that he's bringing to the relationship.
That's right. That's right.
I'm not being controlled. I'm not being bossed around. None of that. That's not what this is. What I'm being is how do we say it, babe? When you submit under the mission that God has given him for our family. And then he partners with that as well. So it's not that, please no, it's not it's not the control thing that we've heard for years. And unfortunately, well, I'm not going to get into where that came from, but that's definitely not what God's word is saying.
Right. So don't feel like you're exempt.
Yeah.
Is what we're trying to say to you, whether you're male or female.
Right.
Don't feel like you're exempt from that whole idea of or concept of submitting or submission.
Right.
Because at some point in your marriage,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to have to both submit to that greater vision
Absolutely.
and that greater mission that your marriage is about. Submit simply means, the way I see it, to commit to.
Mm-hmm. And partner with.
Right. To have a commitment to, a partner with. So in other words, you get what you give.
Mm-hmm. So these three definitions for us that explain what compromise means to Newt and I is to be vulnerability, to sacrifice, and to submit.
Right.
And those are all to the relationship. That's how you come and establish a promise in the relationship. Yeah?
Come to the promise.
All right. Bring something with you when you come now. Bring your 100%.
Are we listening to a song yet?
I
think we need to.
Okay, he says we need to. Okay, guys, we're going to take a little break here and listen to a song by Deitrick Haddon. It's an older song, but it's called Great God, and we all need that great God. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Let's go! Have you ever wanted to host your own inspirational radio show? Have you been called to inspire and spread God's word? Please contact Alicia Rain for more info.
Yes, that DJ hat.
Welcome back to Launch
With Kim.
and Dr.
Oh, he's singing now, y'all. He's singing. Listen, guys, that Diedrich Hatton and that great God. You know, he is a great God. All right, we're going to keep on going because, you know, I get excited with music time. Praise, Master G. Oh, he is a We have to get Michaela to come on, our niece. That's an inside joke. Guys, we're talking about compromise tonight.
7 keys.
7 keys. He's left-handed. Do you see how he put the 5 here and here instead of this and this? That's so funny. That's lefty. But
5 plus 2.
I know, but it's supposed to go.
You go 2 plus 5. She did the same thing. See?
She's the opposite. She's the opposite. Hi, you guys. We're glad you're back with us. Thank you. Please share. We just love enjoying ourselves being married. I mean, you only get this good life one time, so you gotta live it to the fullest.
Marriage like the good life. I would not want to be. Well, that's I shouldn't say that because there's people that are all single right now.
Well, you're saying
Newton, it'd be tough for me, man. It's the world has changed so much. I done got lazy. I used to being married.
I'm so glad you got used to being married. I'm glad you got lazy.
You gotta comb your hair. No, I'm just kidding.
No, please comb your hair. You guys, you see what I'm dealing with? Thanks for staying. I see my Bertha. I love Bert. Bert, hello, Bert. I love you. Oh my God. I see a lot of you others. I'm sorry, but Bert Palmer. She was my Bertha Banks. She used to be my cheerleading coach, my big sister. Oh my God, I love to see her. And look, I see Evangelist Bashi is here.
All right.
Look, Victoria, we love you. You know we love you so much.
Matthews. You guys got to go online and do the challenge.
New's going to do this challenge.
No, I'm talking about them.
No, we both going to do the challenge. Victoria is doing an anchor challenge. We used to play her song a lot when we first started. The song is called Anchor. Victoria X Matthews on Instagram. She has an anchor challenge. It's just a little small verse, and she wants you to put your spin on it of a song that she wrote. So I'll make sure I post that later. But we're going to get back to this little compromise in the marriage.
The seven keys to compromise.
7 keys.
So what we're going to do in this segment here, we're going to hit 4 of them for you.
Mm-hmm.
Then we're going to take a break and come back with the last 3.
Yes.
All right.
So guys, compromise is not about winning, picking, or winning battles, or it's not about, what this person, has to give and what that person has to give. Right. It's about you coming together and establishing something that works for your relationship.
Keep that promise.
Keep the promise.
That's your marriage vows.
Yes, absolutely. That's what it is. So it's an opportunity to work together and to solve a problem. Mm-hmm. And to make a lifelong journey of more empowerment, enjoyment, and more enjoying each other.
So keep in mind, it's not about winning.
No. Mm-mm.
So we're never in competition to win over each other.
I don't know, because remember you always say, why are you in so much competition with me?
Well, I mean with real stuff.
Okay. No, that's a joke. He says it all the time.
Like I fry better chicken.
He doesn't, but I don't know why he's in competition with me. But you know what? That's okay. Number one. It was
cold that night.
Number one is we're not always trying to be right. That's number one.
That's the first key.
The first one is you can't always try to be right. And I know that at first that's difficult because you feel like you are right. And Victoria's laughing because she knows what you're talking about. But definitely you can't always try to be right. Trying to be right will make both of you wrong.
And it's human nature. That's human nature to want to be right. It's human nature. Mm-hmm. It is. It's a survival skill.
Tell them that it's human nature.
So that's something you have to kind of resist.
Yes, absolutely.
You have to think more the bigger picture, especially us men. We can get stubborn-minded. Many of us.
Us women too.
I'm speaking globally. That's not all men. But, it's not me.
I think it's all humans.
We can be stubborn-minded. Yeah. And a lot of us will use our position to try to push a conversation or a thought or whatever the case it is on the table.
That's when that
direction we want to go.
That's when that misrepresentation of submission happens.
Right.
When you're trying to push your,
Right.
But definitely we can't always try to be right. We got to be able to listen. There's two sides to the conversation,
Exactly. And that listening has to happen actively. So
good.
I know I'm guilty of this a lot because I multitask a lot. I'm always doing something.
Me too.
So, I mean, I hear you, but I may not always be 100% listening. Actively, meaning listening to respond, or listening to answer,
to hear, not
or
respond.
listening to how do I want to say it? To take it in and turn it around,
There we go.
so that I can give you an intelligent response.
That's good.
So I'm not always doing that because I'm answering an email, or I'm grading a paper, or whatever I'm doing at the time, designing a course. I mean, because I do my work a lot on the computer. So that active listening has to be a part. It has to be a part.
And you have to teach yourself to listen actively. Like me, and I never thought that I was ADH to the double D. What's he gonna say? Are you going to expose me? But I actually feel like in my older age, let me say this, when I was young, I was busy doing something all the time. As I got older, I have less that I have to do and more that I want to do. So I try to do more and do a whole bunch at one time. And so, see, he did not have to agree.
Should be killing me.
You have to agree. So when I'm doing that, there's times when I'm hearing what he's saying, I'm hearing like pieces of it. And he's like, you didn't hear anything I said. And I'm like, yeah, you said such and such. He was like, no. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry, my bad. I'm just a little busy here. But you have to teach yourself to listen.
Right. Listen,
to actively listen.
So you can come to that promise, so you can move forward with your mission or whatever it is. And when you do that, actually, you both win.
You do.
You both win.
You do.
Because remember, we're both on each other's team.
Yeah.
We're not trying to hurt each other or win over each other. We're trying to win.
Right. As one. And that's what happens. When you become one, then you are one. So if you're trying to make one lose, you're trying to make yourself lose.
Yeah, duh.
What did that scripture say that if the man, if he doesn't love himself, if you're not loving your wife, then you're not loving yourself. So it's the same thing. If in the relationship, if you're trying to bring hurt or harm there, then you're harming yourself. And that would not be wise. Right. Number 2. Let it go. Didn't I just have to sing that to him about that old job?
You gotta let things go.
I think you gotta let it go. If not, it'll be a TKO. Okay? Let things go. Forgiveness. Forgiveness is a grace. Is giving forward grace. Forgiveness is an act of giving forward grace.
Turn it off.
It's no, we're not there now. Let's come on. Come on, Brian.
So let it go.
Let things go.
Like she said, it's an act of giving grace. So forgiveness is giving forward grace.
That's it. Doing it
giving forward grace. Forgiveness, giving forward grace.
Even when you don't feel like you want to. If you try that, if you give grace forward, you find that same thing will happen for you in your relationship.
And here's the deal, that forgiveness, and I hate to say it like this, but it's true, that the largest percentage of that forgiveness is for you.
That's exactly.
It's really not for. It's really not for Kim, or when Kim does, it's really not for me.
Yeah.
It's so we can release ourselves.
Yeah.
And take the weight off our own shoulders and be free ourselves to make better decisions, to communicate better. To see and operate. Without the weight of whatever that.
Right. Bitterness.
I don't even know what to call it. That wound up ball of wax. Oh
yeah. Okay.
Forgiveness is
just bondage.
Forgiveness.
Yeah. To be free from bondage.
Right. So we gotta release each other
from
past wrongs. But here's the deal with forgiveness: just because you've forgiven or let things go, remember we're human.
Exactly.
So there's a large possibility that in a couple of weeks I'm gonna do something to rub it wrong again. To rub it wrong again. I'm gonna make another. I'm gonna say something to get on your nerves. Or I'm gonna do something, again. So that whole forgiveness. It's a continuous encounter.
That's right, because the scripture says what? How many times a day? 70 times 7. That's only in one day. 1 day.
So
And we have a hard time forgiving that one times one.
So it's unlimited.
Yes, it's an unlimited access of giving grace forwardly. All right. Number 3, rethink.
You got to rethink your outcomes. You got to rethink what you wanted.
Yeah. What's the benefit of you trying to win?
So, if you ever been in a I'm going to use the word argument. It's a strong word. Let's say discussion. You're in a discussion. You're going back and forth with your wife or your husband, and in the middle of you going back and forth, you realize, maybe my position's not the right position. You know, maybe I'm just not thinking realistically, or why is this even bothering me anyway?
Right. Why is this such a big deal?
Right. So kind of what happened, it's going to be straight with me. So you done invested all this time and this energy to take this stance. And you got this conversation going back and forth. She telling you about you and you telling her about her.
Trying to.
You know, because you're going through the real and the rough part.
That's
we told you the
Remember 4 R's. 4 R's.
You're going through this part that, you're conversating back together. And all of a sudden you realize, this is not even worth it. Oh, wow. Or oh, wow. Yeah, she did say that before. Ooh, I missed that. You know, something happens in the middle of that conversation. It's okay for you to rethink your position.
It's okay.
It's okay for you to say, you know what? My bad. It's okay for you to move your line.
I know that's the truth.
Pick up your stakes. Remember back in the day, they say, cross this line. I dare you to cross this line.
I dare you to cross this line. Knock this off my shoulder.
Yeah, it's okay for you to erase that line and everything be all right.
I think one time, I remember, I'm laughing because one time, I think we were having a disagreement at our house when the kids were growing up. And I think I said something, oh, you're all dumb. And he just like bust out laughing. But I think I reminded him of like the little wild black girls. I was like, oh, you're all dumb and stuff. And I think I said, oh, you're all dumb. That's so dumb. You know. And he just like fell out laughing.
You all ugly. You all ugly. You all
dumb. You're little, trying to have an argument and don't know what to say.
But it's okay.
But I said something to him and he just fell out laughing. So the disagreement was over.
Yeah,
because it really wasn't worth it.
Many times we dig in on something. And our pride, our everything.
Absolutely.
You know, my dad used to say, you get your butt on your shoulders. Mm-hmm. You know, and we dig in.
Yeah.
And it's okay to change.
And don't be too prideful, because you know the scripture where it says after pride is the fall of man. But some people are thinking like a big fall, like you're going to do this big sin. No, I look at that as the fall means that you adjust from the place that you are and you start to speak negative things or say horrible things about someone and think bad things. That's the fall from the place that you were. So be very careful not to, let pride come before that fall. You don't want to fall into that.
So this is one of the instances where it's okay to adjust or change your expectations.
Absolutely.
Right, because your premise might have been incorrect or just not realistic.
That's good.
And we want you to know that when you do this, when you rethink that desired outcome, move the line and change your position in the middle of the heated discussion, right? You'll release some stress off of you. You'll release some stress off your partner.
Yeah.
And when you do that, you increase your productivity, and you'll see your marriage soar to different heights.
Absolutely. So the first 3, and we're going to do our 4th one. The first 3, don't always try to be right. Number 2, let things go. Rather, number 2. And number 3, rethink your desired outcomes. And then we're going to do one more. Show that you are willing to change. Right. Yeah, but we can push it back. Let's finish this one. Show that you are willing to change. Like right now, you willing to change, Dr. Mill?
Yes, sir.
This is one thing to rethink your desired outcomes. It's another thing to adjust those expectations.
So we just told you before, rethink those. Rethink the line. It's okay for you to change. But it's one thing to be okay to change. It's another thing to actually say, all right, I'm going to let this go.
Right.
It's 2 different steps. That's why we separated them into 2 things and didn't put them together, because we don't want you to think just because you say, okay, we're not going to talk about it anymore. I'm not going to argue about this anymore. Or yeah, you're right. Or you know what? I was thinking of it wrong. Just because you did that and then actually follow through.
Yeah. Yeah.
After that discussion has already started happening, is a whole other skill set. So a major part of that whole compromising piece is to show that you're willing to follow through. Because when your partner, when your wife, your husband sees that you're going to follow through with your commitment to the whole come to a promise cycle, right? It builds trust.
Yes, it does.
You know, it makes them take down walls. You know,
a better stance in the relationship.
Right. They know that you're not just making false promises.
Right.
In other words.
Right.
And that you're going to put up. You're going to put your money where your mouth is. So
There it is.
In your relationship.
Okay, we are going to just take a quick break, but let me just say them again. Don't always try to be right. Let things go. Rethink your desired outcomes and show that you are willing to change. This next song that we're going to have is Travis Green, Without Your Love. All right, guys, stay with us. Hi, Shalinda.
Did we make 15 minutes?
We rise and declare that no one nowhere compares to your love. You are holy, and we shout. We can't live without your love. For you are holy, God. Forever
You're listening to Launch with Kim and Dr. Newt on Praise.fm.
Welcome back to Launch.
Welcome back to
with
Launch
Kim.
and Dr.
Oh, somebody give him a part on it. He's singing now, honey.
Oh, he feels it too.
Hi, you guys. We're so glad you stayed with us. Thank you for staying. That was Travis Green.
That I feel.
Yes, without the love. We cannot live without his love. We are talking about compromise tonight.
Who you saw? You said you saw some people.
Yes,
Give him a shout out.
yes, I said their name.
Remember that guy
Shakira.
wrote in the chat. Shout out, please.
Yes, he did. And I said, I see Star for Bart Jefferson, not Bart.
Hey, Bart.
Annie Gillespie. Hi,
Right.
Annie.
Wellen Coleman.
And Ruby. Hi guys, thank you. And my bestie Shalinda, I love her.
And I see Pastor Lisa. I don't know if she's still on or not,
Hey,
but she
Pastor
was
Lisa,
on.
she's a busy
Thank you
woman.
very much for coming in and
Pastor
stopping
Anderson.
for a second.
Yes, thanks for
that's
stopping
special.
by.
That's very special.
That is special. Thank you.
It is.
So we have these 7 keys to compromise, and I'm gonna go over the first 3 real quick. Just give you the words. Oh, we did 4, right? Well, let's do every other. Okay.
Compromise.
Don't always try to be right.
Let it go. Let things go.
Rethink your desired outcomes. Hi, Shakira.
See, there's that ADHD.
I saw her. Come on.
Show that you're willing to change.
Show it. Yes.
Show that you're willing to change.
Hi, guys.
So as we move into the 5th key, so we can stay within time, because I don't want Lady Rain to turn us off. We be talking.
She is not like that. But we're gonna get
When we was at that concert in San Diego, and the people would turn the
they told him to stop, and the folks wouldn't stop singing, so they just turned them off.
turn the
mics
towels off.
Yeah, Lakeside. All right, so number 5, our 5th key to
That's not
compromise. See, that's it. Okay, guys, so our 5th key to compromise is to share your thoughts, feelings, and your beliefs. So you've got to be open and communicate. Definitely.
You gotta share them.
Yes, it's unwise to abandon those thoughts and feelings. You know, if you do, then you find yourself angry inside.
Right.
You know.
Right. So men, a lot of times we do that. I don't know. I'm not a woman, so I don't know. But I know I do have, and I've talked to a lot of friends who have. We don't say what we think or feel. We don't put it on the table.
Right.
It begins to fester.
Mm-hmm.
It begins to grow and turn into something else.
Poisons.
Right. So, 3-4 months down the road, something else happened, and this big blow up takes place.
Right.
That's not even related. And they try to figure out, looking at you like, where's this coming from? Well, it's coming from the stuff that you didn't say.
That you did not say.
Right.
These are things that we really experienced in early parts of our relationship. I'm like, what are you talking about? And
I'm talking about that time back in 32.
you mean we're talking about 16 years ago. Those are the things that happen. So you definitely got to speak.
You had that red shirt on.
But that's when you have not.
Right. But that's true.
Issue.
I'm making a joke
Yes,
about it,
but
but it's really
real.
true. Right. So you gotta get how you fix that is you get what we call how you fix that is how.
Mm-hmm.
The acronym HOW, HOW. You
Honest.
gotta get honest. You gotta get open, and you gotta get willing to deal with things that are going on.
Be
honest about yourself and what's happening.
Right.
Open with your feelings. Open to receive and understand and hear feedback. So it's a two-way street.
Right.
And willing to do the work to make some changes.
Absolutely.
So you got to put it on the table. And another strategy that we use is to try to put things, and you hear this all the time. This sounds so corny, but it's so good. Put things in I statements. So that way, especially if you're in a conversation, you're in that real or rough part of the conversation, then it can be a little heated. It can be a little spirited. So you wanna own the stuff you're saying and not put it on your partner. Right. Because then they'll think you're accusing them and pointing at them, and and that takes things to a whole different level.
Definitely, I statements work. We teach that in our classroom, and that works outside of the classroom. Right. Definitely own your own feelings. Right. Express yourself.
Right.
Tell your own story, like my bestie's book.
Exactly. Because your spouse loves you.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, y'all
Right.
y'all in love. Remember?
Why you had to say it? Why you had to say it like
Y'all
that?
in love. Y'all love God, right?
What's wrong with you, right?
So you're in love. You're on the same team.
Yes.
You know, so you gotta express what's in you.
Mhm.
My wife can't help me unless she knows what's going on within me,
Right.
and she won't know that if I don't say.
You don't say.
You know.
So I'll just ask a whole bunch of questions until he does say it.
Yeah.
And then after a while, it's like, okay, like, just say it. What's the matter with you?
And it works your nerves. You know, depending on what's going on, it works you, but you need to be worked
You
sometimes.
need to be.
Yeah.
Exactly. And he does the same thing to me. What's wrong with you? Nothing. I'm fine. But he'll keep going until I tell him. So, and that's part of our responsibility,
Right.
to tell each other.
So this is all about coming to a promise.
All of this. Compromising.
Coming to-
Exactly. That was share your thoughts, feelings, and beliefs. The next, number 6, is appreciate your partner's efforts.
Yeah.
Their efforts might not look like your efforts.
Mhm. Mhm.
They're not going to look like yours. They're going to be different, but appreciate their effort, whatever they're doing. Appreciate that,
So when you're in that conversation and it has to be a compromise or some back and forth of some sort, you have to remember that your wife or your husband doesn't have to
Mm-hmm.
be communicating this way.
Right.
They're communicating this way because they love you,
Mm-hmm.
they value the relationship,
Right.
and they trust you and they want to grow with
Mhm.
you. And no matter how difficult or rough the conversation may be,
Yeah.
or how small or petty,
Right.
right? So you want to show them that you appreciate the fact that they're stopping what they're doing
Mm-hmm.
to work on this
There
relationship
it is.
between you and I.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate that you're doing that
Mm-hmm.
because this work is going to make everything better for me.
And easier.
Yes.
Right.
Right.
It's going to make it easier. We're not trying to make our ways difficult. I don't want to climb up a rough side of a mountain when it's an easy way for me to go. I don't want to have to try to figure something out when there's already been a way that's paved.
Exactly.
So let me walk that way.
Exactly. So get deliberate. When you're appreciating them, get deliberate. I challenge you
Mhm.
to
Deliberate. What you said.
yeah, deliberate. Yeah. So pick out things. You know what, babe? I appreciate that you stopped what you were doing. I know you had such and such and such and such to do, and you were already in motion. And for you to stop and deal with this with me, I mean, that's a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big deal. Tell her or tell him specifically, and I said specifically, not specifically. Specifically, right?
The ocean's
Tell
out
him
of it.
specifically, kind of what it is that you appreciate,
Mm-hmm.
and that'll take things to a whole nother level.
Yep, definitely highlight those things, and that will definitely help to it'll help to encourage her or him to do even more.
Energize.
Definitely will energize it. Number 7, and our final one. Let's read it together, baby. Remain open to do it all again. Because once you do it once, it's not over. You got to start all over again.
Because you're going from glory to glory to glory to glory. And what they say, work out your own soul salvation.
And it's
So,
definitely
yes,
going to repeat
there's some
itself.
work,
There'll
right.
be another issue or another situation that you have to work out together.
Right.
And over the years of relationship, you definitely are going to need to restart, rethink, all of those things that we talked about. Keep in mind, it's necessary to come to a promise again.
again, right. So you're
Compromising
coming
again.
to a promise.
Mhm.
And that promise is going to move. Then you got to come to it again.
Yes.
So
Each time.
just keep that open mind. That's all
Yep.
we're saying. Keep that open mind. Be willing to change.
Mhm. Try not to be right.
Yes. You don't want to fight against each other all the time. And you're working towards a common goal.
Yes, that's the key.
So it's
That's
about
the key.
the process, working towards a common goal in your marriage.
Mhm.
To achieve that mission that you
Mhm.
both have subjected or got under.
Submitted to.
Right.
Exactly. So remember, in compromise, there are 3 things that you want to consider when you're compromising, and that's being vulnerable, sacrificing, and also submitting to each other and to the relationship. And then those 7 keys.
So, you want me to read the 7 keys?
Yeah, can you do the 7 keys?
All right, I turn the page and read the 7 keys. So the 7 keys. So don't always try to be right.
Yeah, number 1.
Right. And learn to let things go. Very important. And don't be afraid to change your expectations. Rethink those desired outcomes. Move the line in the sand. That's all right. In the middle, stop and move it. Right? And then once you okay to rethinking and changing your expectations, do it. Show that you're willing to change.
Show them.
Yeah, you know, and share your thoughts and your feelings. You know, don't stay silent.
Right.
Don't stay quiet. That doesn't fix things. It makes it worse.
Yes.
Learn how to talk to each other.
Right.
And, you know, be honest, open, and willing in that. Use your I statements and things of that sort. And then appreciate your partner's efforts. Let them know that you appreciate the fact that they stopped what they were doing and work together with you so we can come to our promise together in this relationship that we both made a covenant to submit to. And then finally, last but not least, last but not least, appreciate your, remain open to do it all again.
Yep.
Because you're going to do it all
Yes,
again.
indeed.
Every compromise deserves your undivided attention.
Yes, yes, everyone.
So keep that on the line. I don't know.
Okay, guys, we did it. We did it within the time frame. We did it.
Hopefully you grab some morsel to take with you to educate yourself, motivate yourself, and help yourself grow.
Yes, and remember, it is so important for you to compromise. It helps to build your relationship. It also, you're going to have to back down a little bit, but that's part of the keys. One thing I promise you, as you back down, you're going to see how much forward you two will go together. So, okay, don't forget to compromise. Thank you. Come to the promise. Thank you guys for staying with us tonight. I see Anita and Janelle Brown joined us. We're finished. You guys go back and watch the video. Yeah, I said that. See, that's his ADHD. No, that ain't ADHD.
That's my just not paying attention.
That's not that.
We want to thank Lady Rain, our producer. You guys, if you'd like to do a show, you have an idea, something you'd like to do, go ahead and contact Lady Rain at praise.fm. So that's PRAYZ.fm. If you have an idea for a show or something you'd like to host on your own, she has international exposure.
Yes.
So you want to go ahead and contact her.
She's international, you know.
She can help
and she's known on the microphone.
You guys have a great day.
Thank you.
We love you.
Love you guys. See you for the relaunch on Saturday.
Brothers and sisters, I want to welcome you back to life, back to the one that can make your next chapter your best chapter. Hallelujah.
How can it be that you love the most unlovable part of me? How could you see your life was the only gift I'll ever need to be free? It's amazing with you. I win even if I lose. Everything's working for my good for always.
Come on.
He saves the day. He will come through. He won't now. That's not what superheroes do.
Hallelujah.
No greater love makes my heart beat. All I wanna do is make you proud of me.
That's why
I don't wanna love nobody but you. I don't wanna love nobody but you. I don't wanna love nobody but you.
let's go.
How can it be? Every one of my secrets that you keep,
You cover me.
you cover me.
I appreciate it.
A mystery.
It's amazing how
Your patience with me, God will never leave.
you don't give up on me.
Don't ever leave.
Help me.
Help me to see like you.
Like you.
No matter what I go through,
Hey.
everything's working for my good for always.
Let me tell you what he does.
He saves the day.
And he
He
will.
will come through.
Hallelujah.
He won't now. That's not what superheroes do.
Not real superheroes.
No greater love
A love like this.
makes my heart beat.
And I promise you,
All I wanna do is make you proud of me. nobody but you.
Yes.
I don't wanna love nobody but you.
I searched all over.
I don't wanna love nobody but you. I don't wanna love nobody but you.
That's right.
I don't wanna love nobody but you.
Yes. And the church sang, come on.
Loving you will be,
Jesus loving you.
will be the death of me.
It sounds crazy, don't it? Hey,
That's how it's supposed to be.
let me tell you what it means.
More you less of me. Nobody but you. I don't wanna love nobody but you.
Father.
I don't wanna love nobody but you.
I really mean it this time.
I don't wanna love nobody but you.
Jesus.
I don't wanna love nobody but you. I don't wanna love nobody but you.
Let me tell you what he does.
He saves the day.
Come on.
He will come through.
He will let you down, but
He won't now. That's not what superheroes do.
see, I will never find
No way to love
a love like this.
makes my heart beat.
Forever and the day.
All I wanna do is make you proud
Let
of
me
me.
say it again.
He saves the day. He will come through.
It feels so good.
He won't now. That's not what superheroes do.
Yes.
No way to love
Hallelujah.
makes my heart beat.
For the rest of my life.
All I wanna do is make you proud of me.
Everybody sing.
I don't wanna love nobody but you. I don't wanna love nobody but you. I don't wanna love nobody but you.
You're the savior.
I don't wanna love nobody but you. I don't wanna love nobody but you. I don't wanna love nobody but you.